emergence of a curious band of politicised football hooligans, calling themselves the English Defence League. Their primary goal is, as they see it, to make a stand against Islamic extremism by holding demos. Whilst the idea may seem fine enough in principle to make a stand against the Islamification of Britain, these football hooligans inevitably behave as bad as the Muslims they claim to protest. Recently they staged demos in Luton and Birmingham, demos which inevitably descended into the maelstroms of violence, although far-left protesters and Muslims also there were not shirking themselves from the gratuitous bloodletting.
Here! You can't! It's betraying everybody as the bad guys. I don't believe it!
Well, they were all responsible for the trouble.
The Muslims! Who'd have thought it? I mean, well, that's just unfeasible now you've said it.
A few days ago in Harrow, the EDL decided to stage another demo in front of a large mosque as a statement of their feeling against Islamic extremism. Now, ahead of time, a vast crowd of young Muslims knew where the scheduled demo was going to take place, and so they gathered there in intimidatingly large numbers. However, it turned out, for the EDL's own security, that this was just a decoy, and they were going to hold the march past somewhere else. Now, rather surprisingly, scores of young Muslims started sprinting over the police cordons set up to keep the two groups apart. Now, the police supplied to keep the two groups apart were insufficient, and the line broke up, which only goes to prove that there is indeed a sizable seething Islamic element set only to cause trouble, set only for confrontation themselves. Yet, who always gets the blame? Only the EDL. Now, I have no time for the EDL, but it's not fair just to blame them alone. And it also gives many left-wing people to have another excuse to whinge and bitch on about racists, making life uncomfortable for Muslims in this country. I've got a feeling that the Muslim community, as proved yet again, is big and bad enough to stick up for itself when the crunch comes, which only goes to prove that they're not quite as defenceless as the leftists keep on saying.
As somebody from the Labour Party, I can indeed confirm that the Muslims of this country really are so ever so precious and ever so sensitive and ever so delicate. Oh yes, mate, they can't handle trouble, they can't handle friction, they can't handle living in the West, mate. Which is why a sizable number of them always overreact to quote-unquote provocation. That's why there are so many regular riots, mate. That's why so many community leaders are often threatening people in the council with things like riots if they don't submit to what their community claim to want every 5 minutes. Oh yes, mate, and that trouble can take the form of tensions and violence and general extremism. Well, I mean, I don't have to tell you now, do I? Which is why it's very, very important that we always try to keep on the good side of the Muslim community. For the sake of inclusiveness, that is why I've closed down my 5th swimming pool in the community. Well, not closed it, well, closed down to ordinary decent people like you, but open to Muslim women, mate. And if anybody else does want to go in there, any other normal woman, they've got to promise to wear the new burkini in order not to show themselves up and embarrass the Muslims. Well, they're very, very sensitive and delicate, as I outlined earlier, which is why you've got to do everything possible to bow and scrape to them to make sure they don't go offended. Vote up.